So, what does it really take to create a classroom where every single student can succeed? Today, we're going to break down a foundational academic paper that gives us a pretty powerful blueprint for any educator trying to navigate our modern, incredibly diverse world.
Okay, let's just start with a big fundamental question. In a world where our classrooms are more diverse than they have ever been, what's the actual goal here? What does a successful, healthy learning environment really look like today?
So here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in four main parts. First, we'll get a handle on the new classroom reality. Then, we'll look at some major pitfalls to avoid. After that, we'll explore how to harness the amazing power of a diverse group, and we'll wrap up by talking about how we might need to redefine what success even means.
All right, let's dive into part one, the new reality of today's diverse classroom. The basic idea is simple, really. Our student populations have changed, and so our approach to teaching has to change right along with them.
This right here is the new normal. Classrooms today are just filled with this incredible mix of genders, ethnicities, ages, and beliefs. And the source material is really clear on this point. This isn't some problem to be managed. It's just the reality. And it means educators need to develop a whole different set of skills to make sure every single student can thrive.
You know, the former Secretary of Labor, Robert Reich, he put it really well. He said society isn't one big boat anymore. It's more like a whole fleet of smaller, different boats. And that is especially true in our schools. Just recognizing that is the first big step.
So, to navigate this new world, educators need a new tool. The paper calls it cultural competency. And look, this isn't about attending a one-day workshop. It's a continuous, ongoing process of learning how to operate respectfully and effectively when you're surrounded by cultural differences. And it's a critical skill for teachers and for students.
Of course, with this new environment come new responsibilities. And that means being really aware of the potential traps that can create a toxic atmosphere and just get in the way of real learning.
The first major pitfall to watch out for is quid pro quo harassment. This is that classic, awful abuse of power. The paper really stresses that this has to be avoided at all costs, whether it's on purpose or not.
And the second one is what's known as a hostile learning environment. This is what happens when insensitive or just plain inappropriate comments are made over and over again, and the teacher does nothing. They failed to step in, and that inaction allows this toxic climate to build, which can do serious damage to a student's well-being and their ability to learn anything.
And the source material gives us this incredibly powerful and frankly pretty chilling real-world example of this danger. A teacher once told a young Malcolm X to just give up on his dream of becoming a lawyer. They suggested a job using his hands instead, all because of the teacher's own bias. It's just a stark reminder of how stereotypes can completely crush a person's potential before it even has a chance to get off the ground.
Okay, so now that we know the dangers, let's flip the script and talk about the incredible opportunities. How do we turn all this diversity in our classrooms from what seems like a challenge into our greatest possible asset?
Well, the biggest enemy of a diverse team is something called groupthink. You've probably seen this in action. It's that dangerous state where everybody just starts to think alike, and the desire to agree and get along completely overrides the need for critical thinking and honest debate. It's a total creativity killer. And the research that the paper talks about, it is crystal clear on this. Homogeneous teams, groups where everybody is basically the same, they tend to fall right into that groupthink trap. But heterogeneous teams, diverse teams, they are consistently more creative and more productive when you give them complex problems. They just bring different ways of seeing the world, and that leads to way better solutions.
And the ultimate goal here is synergy. It's that kind of magical outcome where the team's combined effort creates something way bigger and better than what any one person could have done on their own. It's where 1 + 1 actually equals 3. And that is the true power of a diverse team that's working well together.
So part of getting to that synergy is just appreciating the different styles people bring to the table. For instance, the source points to some generalized studies on communication styles. You might see one style that's really focused on results. Where are we going? And it's very succinct. Meanwhile, another style might be more focused on the process. How do we get there? And uses more of a storytelling approach. Recognizing and really valuing these different complementary ways of communicating is absolutely key to making sure every single voice gets heard. And when you do all this, when it all comes together, what you're creating is an inclusive learning environment. This is the foundation that Synergy is built on.
It's a space where every single student feels like they're actively involved, they're respected, and they can actually connect with the material being taught. Which brings us to our final, and maybe the most important section. To really create this kind of environment, we have to kind of step back and rethink how we define success itself.
You know, this idea, it is not new at all. Thousands of years ago, the Greek playwright Sophocles argued that success depends on effort. That little idea completely shifts the focus away from some kind of innate, fixed ability and puts it on something every student can actually control: how much work they put in.
And author Brian Tracy kind of builds on that. He reminds us that success isn't just one big moment. It's actually thousands of tiny, unseen efforts. So for an educator, that means recognizing and encouraging the daily grind, all those small victories along the way, not just focusing on the final grade. And then Ralph Waldo Emerson comes along and expands this definition even wider. He frames success not just as what you achieve for yourself, but as the positive impact you have on other people. So if success is really about effort and process and our effect on the world, what does that mean for an educator?
Well, it all leads to the paper's central, most powerful argument, that educators have a moral imperative. A duty, really. And that duty is to proceed as if no limits exist on their students' abilities. It's about seeing infinite potential in every single person, completely free from any preconceived notions or stereotypes.
And we'll end with that thought. If success isn't some limit that we set for people, but a potential that's waiting to be unlocked, then the real question for all of us, whether we're educators, students, or just lifelong learners, is this: how are you going to turn the key?